Hello, it's Amanda here from Suddenly Autistic, and I wanted to talk in this video about the most disabling characteristic of autism for me, and that is my monotropic mind functioning, my mindset, whatever you call it, I don't know. So monotropic mind is characteristic of autism. I'm not sure whether it exists in other people too, but it's definitely a cornerstone of being autistic, along with an isolated sense of self, so a sort of self-sufficiency or living somewhat in your own bubble, either wholly or partially. So the autism is about an isolated sense of self. The monotropic mindset is something that's linked to that. And how that manifests is, in the most disabling way for me, is having trouble changing focus and subjects. So if I'm doing something, I find it really hard to then be interrupted and do something else. I get hyper-focused. I get a thing called hyperfocus, which is characteristic of other things, and everybody, even neurotypical people. No, I think there's times when everybody feels like this focus, where they're really in the zone, they're doing something they love, and they'd really get annoyed if they get interrupted, and they're performing really well in that. But that is my norm. And it doesn't mean I'm going to perform well, actually. It just means that I'm sucked into something. So I go into like a black hole vortex of thinking about anything that I'm doing quite often. If I'm really, really tired or stressed or whatever, then I can daydream. I also have ADHD, and that's a characteristic part of ADHD. So the autistic manifestation of monotropic thinking, from my experience anyway, is getting really in depth in a subject and imagining, all of the different nuances, questions, avenues, whatever that you can go down, and really sort of exploring, doing thorough research, getting really engrossed in a project and not leaving it alone, and finding it really, really hard to break that into something, and stop to do anything else. The ADHD manifestation of my experience would be wanting to do that. So trying to get myself into that mindset almost, but having what I'd call a monkey mind day, where, I start something and I do half of it, and then I get onto something else and I do half, and I approach everything in this monotropic mindset. So I'm really digging deep down into something, getting everything out, getting everything organized, getting on with it, and then I get distracted. So these two things can exist in the same person. They certainly exist in me. It can be really frustrating, because if I've had an ADHD brain type of day where I've tried to be monotropic on a number of fronts, I can cause a lot of mess and chaos, and I can also lose a lot of stuff because I'm not fully present. My attention keeps drifting, or while I'm doing something, I'm thinking of something else. So that happens, but I'm really, in those moments, on those days, I'm trying to get myself into that monotropic groove. If I'm having more of an autistic day, or things are going well and I'm in my autistic monotropic zone, I will focus at the exclusion of everything else. And it's the extreme nature of it that makes it a disability and a dysfunctionality in terms of everyday life. It might not be disabling in terms of the output. So for example, I could possibly go into a monotropic mindset doing some research, and because of the way my brain works, and if I'm left to focus that way, I can produce some amazing work and find out things that people hadn't thought about, and just because of the capacity that's there when I'm in that zone. So that's not a disability. That's what I would class as a gift. Where it becomes disabling is that we don't function as robots, and that's the key. So let me get to that. So there's this thing that I'm calling an intrusion, and I'm calling it an intrusion for an intentional way because that's how it feels at the worst. So as someone who's autistic, if I am sort of taking the monotropic mindset to the extreme, if you like, any interaction outside of myself and my own self bubble and my own thought bubble is an intrusion, and that intrusion could be met with panic, or I want to limit it, avoid it, distract myself from it, or at best I'm going to endure it. You know, it's going to be a fairly negative thing because I want to stay in this zone. It's really hard for me to change it. Once I'm in it, I want to stay in it, because if I come out of it, it's going to be hard for me to get back in it. So it's that real desire to stay in your own bubble, doing what you're doing and not be interrupted. Now, I think it's really important that I make it clear that intrusions are not just about other people, they're also about myself. So the example earlier with the bathroom, it could be something like that. So if I'm in a real monotropic day and I'm getting involved in something and I'm quite into it, then I will struggle to read my body signals at all, and I will lose connection to the time of day it is and to the needs and wants of others, and I will become very tunnel vision about what I'm doing. So even something like needing to go to the toilet, if it happens too many times, then I feel I'll have this internal narrative that, far out, you know, I've got to go to the loo again, you know, and that will then start to get me panicked because it feels like I'm coming out of my monotropic zone. So maybe what I'll do, and this is often subconsciously, I've never thought about it until recently, but I might limit what I drink so that I don't have to go for a pee so often. I basically stop feeling hungry, so I'm not likely to eat, and when I do start feeling hungry, I'm more inclined to just pull something out of the cupboard that's simple and easy, like a packet of biscuits or whatever, rather than cook. I don't have the capacity at that time to think about a good meal. Sleep goes out the window. I might not sleep at all, or I might attempt to go to bed to be socially acceptable and then wake up in the middle of the night because I can't stop thinking about what I was doing, that kind of thing. So intrusions, the monotropic mindset wants to do something. When I'm in my autistic monotropic mindset, nothing gets in the way without it making me feel bad or making me have this huge mountain to climb mentally to get back to it. And then it's almost like, I guess a metaphor might be the surfers, you know, trying to chase that perfect wave. You know, it's that elusive thing that you know that if you keep trying, you'll get back on out there and you might catch that perfect wave, but it's a really hard and effortful thing to do, and you've got to endure, and you just don't know how long for. So if I'm in the zone and anyone or anything bodily or externally interrupts that, it ruins my day. It can ruin my day. Now, there's all sorts of other things I've mapped, but I won't go through them all because it will take too long, but it's all to do with that. I'll do that in another video. But what I would say is, for me, I haven't been aware of this until now. So I have been aware of the consequences, but I have been treating myself and expecting things of myself as a neurotypical person. So, and I also have a high functioning capacity for, I suppose, self-management and stuff. So if somebody, what usually happens to me and what has definitely happened in the past is that when I've been in that monotropic thing, got something done, and, you know, I've noticed, oh my God, it's time, I've got to cook some dinner for everyone, look at the time, or now I need to go to the bathroom or whatever. I've just tried to suck it up and get on with it because that's what society needs, that's what my job is, that's what is normal, that's what normal people do. And I have really fought myself and my instincts to perform to a normal level, if you like. So I guess, so that's happened. Now, I don't necessarily think all of that is bad, because had I not done that, and had I either, you know, locked myself in a cupboard to get something done for weeks on end and ignored my children, you know, needing food, then they would have suffered, and that would have been disrespectful to their needs and also neglectful. So I think it's good that I've been able to do that, but it hasn't been without consequences, and the consequences have been for me. So I guess what I'm learning now is that I have to manage this. So having a monotropic mindset is something that I have as an autistic woman, as an autistic person, as someone with autism. Having this isolated sense of self or desire to do things in my own bubble, that's where I function the best. So if you pair the being alone in my own world with no care or worry about anyone else with getting in this monotropic mindset, that's where the magic can happen. That's where I can really get the best out of myself and perform really well and do amazing things. But that hasn't happened a lot in the past. I've had little glimmers of it, and I've been able to kind of keep the thread and go back and keep surfing that wave and whatever. But it's been a hard job over the years, and it's taken a lot out of me. And often what's happened is I've had burnouts. So rather than be, angry with everybody and shout at them or whatever, I generally just went, okay, no, this is fine. I need to just perform other tasks now. I've got to just get over myself and get on with these things. So I basically internalized the discomfort, tried to minimize it by rationalize it, overthinking it maybe, and function as normal people would function. But as a consequence, lost my thread a lot, physically lost my stuff a lot, maybe didn't eat as well as I could have done, definitely didn't, pay attention to my body needs as much as I should have done, and as a consequence have got to this point in time where I have a relatively poor insight into my own wants and needs because I've been fighting them for so long. And that's really where I've got to today. So it's trying to unpick that which doesn't serve me, but at the same time not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And what I mean by that is that, like I said, being autistic, having a monotropic mindset, that could put me in a difficult position in life, and one that would then compromise some of the things that I do love, like being in a marriage, in a happy married relationship, being a mother with children or young adults in my life, being a member of a community, going to work and being part of a team there. I love all of those things, and those things come with interruptions. I also want to understand my body more. I don't want to stay up all night, because something's interesting, and then, be extremely tired and then have my immune system crash because I haven't been sleeping. I don't want to miss meals and then, just have 3 bars of chocolate for dinner. I don't think this is healthy. So I've become very much more aware over the last few weeks, and this is thanks to being diagnosed. So being diagnosed has been a good thing. So I've become very much more aware of where my natural tendencies are. I feel that the next step for me is what I'm doing now, which is mapping them and making them, like naming it to tame it, that kind of thing, which is a catchphrase of the body keeps the score, I think it is. But yeah, so really becoming much more aware and getting these things and these patterns out into the world so I can actually understand them, because I think it's important to remember that it wasn't that I knew these things were happening and that I was doing all this stuff, and that now it's like, oh, I've got to fess up and yeah, okay, I've got to change. I didn't know that this was all linked and that there was a pattern and a reason behind this. Sure, I'd recognise that I do some things the same all the time and whatever, or that I'm, I'd recognise some things, but not like this. So this is the first time that I've been able to name and tame, I guess, or name at least. I'm not at the tame stage yet. So name what's going on for me and understand, most importantly, why I've had so many freeze outs or brain fogs, or, this state where you just can't get your act together. You can't get started, you can't get going, or you got something done, but you just can't pick it up again. You really just can't get it up. You can't get the momentum. It's like having a broken engine. So that has been a constant struggle for me in my life, an absolute constant struggle for as long as I remember. Go, stop, in a heap. What the heck happened? How do I stop this from happening? I finally feel that understanding myself as an autistic person with the monotropic mindset, and then how the kind of things that interest me and managing that, I think that I've got all the information now I need. The next step is to really, like I said, plan it all out, which I am doing, understand why these things happen, and work out how can I compromise? How can I find a healthy compromise that honours my autism and my monotropic mind without having that come above all the other things that I value, which require me to break the monotropic mindset? So I want to get that better into balance, because it hasn't really been balanced in the favour of me with my reality, because I haven't known what my reality is. So that's what I'm talking about.